lawyers for those journals got cold feet.
In the 1980s, the legal advisors of various editors of the various medical journals and pharmacological journals were advising the editors not to let human experiments be published unless they were had been approved by and had been overseen by a research advisory panel of some type. And so in our little research group, we decided to be a research advisory panel and advise ourselves as to how we should do things. And that went along for about 2 or 3 years, and then that was felt to be uncomfortable. The journals are strictly a little bit uncomfortable publishing human data that did not come from known clinical sources.
Well, everybody was getting cold feet. It was the beginning of the war on drugs in general. And they decided it was just too risky. Actually, our research group did include the kind of people who are supposed to be included in a, advisory panel. Psychiatrists and
lawyers,
psychologists. Lawyers, yeah. Not too many lawyers. So anyway, that was the point at which we began to think that the best thing to do was to put all this information, all this knowledge, into a different form, one that did not depend on peer review. And so we began writing the first book, which was pt2. And
very, very cautiously indicated that it was a fictional book.
Yeah.
So there'd be no complication.
The chemistry is not fictional.
Well, maybe it is. No. Okay.
No. But the rest of the story, you might say, is non-fiction here and there. Let's put it that way. But some of it is fictional. And as far as the authorities go, it most definitely is a fictional story. And as far as my children go, it certainly is fictional because there's a lot of sex in it. So, and parents don't do that kind of thing.
It's amazing what children don't know their parents do.
They don't want to know. Children prefer not to know. So that was the beginning of the writing, and I was doing work as a lay therapist at that time, and I did that for about 2.5 years. And that was incredible work, using MDMA before it became illegal. And let me tell you, MDMA is an extraordinary psychotherapeutic drug. And I'm so happy to know that various places around the world, it's now being used in what I think is going to be its most important way, and that is dealing with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Especially for veterans of war, I think MDMA is going to save a lot of sanity. And anyway, after MDMA became illegal and the idea of the book became more important, I quit the therapy, having learned a tremendous lot, and we began writing pt2. We submitted the manuscript to a very good friend who's a publisher, and he sent it back saying, "I wish I could, but it's too political." We understood, and we did not submit the manuscript to anyone else. And we went ahead and did our own publishing, and we have been delighted to have done so ever since. And the second book is Pihkal. The first book, Pihkal, Pihkal, stands for Phenethylamines I Have Known and Loved. That was Sasha's idea. And the second book is Tryptamines I Have Known and Loved. And people who don't know a thing about chemistry enjoy the first half of the book, which is the story. And those who are pure chemists ignore the first half and just go straight to the chemistry. And that's pretty much, for the rest you have to read the books. That's sort of the best summary I could give. You got anything more?
No, I think it's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now, questions, for heaven's sake. And if there are no questions, we're in real trouble. Yeah.
Hi. As a chemist, the best way to express my esteem and appreciation is to ask a chemistry question. In PiCal, you say that 2CH is likely to be not psychoactive because it would get chewed up by the monoamine oxidases. I'm wondering why substitution at the 4 position would inhibit that, as it does with 2CB and 2CD and so on. That's the first question. The second is more in general. Well, perhaps I should let you answer that, and I'll ask the second one.
Okay, the question basically, why are some of these phenethylamines that are presumably destroyed by monoamine oxidase inhibitors, why are they active? Well, there are a number of reasons they might be. One is the monoamine oxidase monoamine oxidase enzyme could remove the amine group, but we don't know what the functional molecule is. It could very well be that the result of that deamination produces a material in a site, in a location that is the active component. A lot of these, most of these, I have not even looked at the urinary content, urinary metabolites to see what is in there. For example, I have found that I did do an experiment with mescaline, which is again a phenethylamine. It should, quote, not be active. And I made some C14 labeled mescaline and took and divided it into 3 portions, about 5 microcuries each. And one was the pure material that I had made. It was, I think it's about 40 micrograms of material. Then I diluted another batch to about 2 or 3 milligrams, and a third batch to 150 milligrams with cold mescaline. And to see it over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, I took each of the 3 samples and collected my urine. And I found in the low concentrations and the medium concentrations, the material was almost totally destroyed by the monoamine oxidase. I presume by monoamine oxidase, because I did find the C14 in the acidic fraction. In the higher levels, there was about 75% destruction, about 25% went through unchanged or as other demethylated metabolites. And I suspect that the large dosage is what allowed the mescaline to be realized, and at small levels, small doses, it's just totally destroyed. I think a challenge to this would be to try some of these compounds using monoamine oxidase inhibitors, sort of an ayahuasca concept, where you have a material that is not orally active or shouldn't be orally active and becomes so in the presence of an inhibitor of that enzyme system. So it may well be that these materials that are active are extremely active, and in the presence of a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, their potency may be much higher than we suspect.
Thank you very much.
Was there a second part of the question?
Yeah, the second part is, or the second question is, the psychedelics you've designed all have their unique character. Clearly there's so much more going on than just 1 or 2, different receptors, 5-HT2A, 5-HT2C. Why do you suppose that is? Would you say there's just a bunch of subtypes of receptors, or a symphony of interactions among them? Or how would you speculate biologically the subtle differences between, a 2CB and a 2CI, something like that?
Well, first of all, I don't know where the materials are active. Since one can look where the serotonin agonists go, one can suspect that serotonin, there's a new subdivision, I think, every 3 weeks. 5-HT2, 5-HT2A, 2C. They find other compounds that are agonists to another type of serotonin. So it may be a display of different of distribution amongst different serotonin receptors. But I believe that the involvement of the neurotransmitters as an explanation is partly compromised by the fact that neurotransmitters, we can see where they are, and we don't know where these things are in their effectiveness. A good example of this is an experiment, I think I wrote a note on it, in which DOB is a very potent psychedelic. It is a very long-lived, very slow onset, very long-lived.
It's a weekend trip.
Yeah. Yeah, a long weekend. be cautious of DOI, which can be equally long and equally